Hello, how are you today? Inshallah, today we will complete with selectively breeding or selective breeding. Last lecture, we complete the hybridization and inbreeding, and we started with genetically modification on a plant. Today, inshallah, we will complete again with genetically modification in plants and animals, okay? Hopefully, you will take all of the information in your notes to complete the lecture with me. Last lecture, we finished the genetic modification on the plants, and we say that genetic modification is a special characteristic when you add a special characteristic to the plants or animal to make it resistant to specific condition or specific organisms. Okay, so let's start with the specific plant like this and this. There is specific insects that will eat the corn, or like this we can find rust here or infection here. So genetic modification in a plant sometimes could be for resistance against insects, or even resistance against herbs, or even viral infections. So we will add specific gene that will protect these organisms against all of these conditions, and even resistant to rot or spoilage. Okay, let's check the genetically modification in animals. What we can do to the animals so we will modify all of the characteristics in these animals. As an example, 30% of the milks in the US comes from cows injected with hormones to increase milk production. So from where we'll take these hormones and how we increase these productions. These hormones are formed from genetically modified organisms, and when we inject these hormones in the cows, we will increase the production of milks. And even pigs produce more lean meat or high level of healthy omega-3 acids if they are genetically modified. Salmon, faster growth to produce more fish, and even scientists in Canada, they combine spider genes into lactating goats. Imagine that if we insert a specific gene from the spider, this gene will produce the silk, and we insert it or inject it in the lactating goat in specific lactating tissue. What will happen in this case? We will find a silk produced in the milk. Imagine that specific types of silks that will be produced from the spiders will be formed in the milk. This is imaginary. So silk was extracted and used to make military uniforms, medical sutures, and even tennis racket strings. So these types of modifications onto the goats will increase the production of silk inside the milk, and this silk is used already in the military uniforms. And genetically modified plant animals could lead to better, less expensive, and more nutritious food, as well as less harmful manufacturing process. Imagine that, less expensive, better, and more nutrients foods with low or less harmful manufacturing process. Okay, that's great idea. Even farmers and ranchers hope cloning will allow them to duplicate prize animal, providing better quality and more food for rising population. That's a great idea. So genetic modification will help the world in many times. Let's now check the recombinant DNA. What do you mean by the recombinant DNA and human health? What's the recombinant DNA? Why we need to use the recombinant DNA? All of this idea is a great idea, will be used in the genetic modification. Scientists can develop a recombinant DNA to produce human antibodies to fight disease. Imagine that we can fight diseases, fighting the diseases by using antibody produced from a recombinant DNA technology. This is amazing. Can also make proteins engineered in transgenic sheep or pigs milks to be used in disease prevention. So specific proteins can be engineered and inserted in these sheep's or pigs milks, in the sheep milks and the pig's meat, that to be used in disease prevention. And even can treat diseases caused by protein deficiency. Sometimes if we have a deficiency against one of these proteins or deficiency in protein production, it will cause diseases. If we make a recombinant DNA specified for this protein and we insert it in a specific organism, and this organism will produce this protein in a high amount and we will use it, so the diseases that will be caused, or the diseases that caused by these mutations or even deficiencies can be solved, okay? And do you know of a disease or disorders called or caused by protein deficiency? Try to think, try to find out this question, and please tell me in the lecture what is the examples on diseases or disorders caused by protein deficiencies. I think that you will know this answer at the end of the lecture. The final idea that we'll take it inshallah today, which is the gene therapy. What do you mean by gene therapy? Is it a good idea or a bad idea? Is it a good technology or a bad technology? From the name, I think it's a good technology, because gene therapy, we can treat diseases or treat disorder by using specific gene. So gene therapy is just a process of changing a gene to treat a medical disease or disorder. It's not just a disease, it's not just a disorder, it's both of them. So bad gene is replaced with the good genes, so we can change the gene and use the good one. And like first we need a virus to transport the gene into the organism, and once we use that, the patient cells are infected with the new gene, hopefully correcting the defect. And lastly, changing part, will it last long term, or will the virus DNA harm the patient? This is the idea that still now it's not solved. Okay, so again, gene therapy, we will take specific gene and we will insert this gene in the virus first, and then this virus will inject it in the human or in an organism that we want to treat it. And once this virus injected already in the organism, the virus will transport the gene, and once the gene is transported, it will be producing the protein or specific treatment that is already found in the virus, and then the gene or even the protein could help the patient. But till now, it's not defined if it will change the problem, it will solve the problem, or sometimes the virus could infect the patient. Till now, it's not 100% sure. Okay? Have a nice day. Thank you, guys. Hopefully you will find all of the information that you need by the end of this lecture. Have a nice